What's going on? What's going on? Beautiful people.
Wonderful people.
We are back at it again. We're going to hold on for a second. We just want to make sure that everybody gets in here, or at least a few more people. We want to get in there,
There
make
you go.
sure. Hope y'all are enjoying your day.
Yes.
It is Saturday. It is officially winter. Well,
No.
not winter, but
Well, it
fall.
was. It's snowing in Canada and someplace else too.
Yeah, it's snowing in Chicago.
Yeah.
Talked to my dad
It's
earlier.
it's it's, it's
Yeah.
snowing some places. Not in Alabama though. But
Oh boy. All right, y'all. Well, we gonna
ooh.
wait just a little bit for some other people to come in, but we're just gonna jump right into it
Oh, let me get
for
my.
today. And for those of y'all who are checking in, this video today is one that we've had a lot of people wanted us to do a video on this, and this is about the origins of religion, or
Word.
our our view about religion.
Yes.
So, just as a disclaimer, um, what's going
Hi,
on, Marshawn? What's up?
Marshawn.
What's up? So, just as a disclaimer for those who are tuning in or who are watching this video after it goes live, um, this video is just to share information, okay?
Yes.
Because the more you know, the better you can make decisions.
Mhm.
You can figure out the best way to move throughout life.
Yes.
And for everything that we are about to share, we ask that you do your own research.
Please do. Don't believe us, even
Yeah.
though we are believable.
Yeah.
But do your own research, and you probably
Hmm.
gonna find out more. I mean, we're in the age of information, so
Yes.
it's out there. It is out there.
Yeah. We are in the age of Aquarius. There is tons of information out there, and a lot more information that's being revealed,
Yeah,
and a lot of things are being disclosed that were never disclosed before.
right. Because now the veil has been lifted, so
Hmm.
it's no excuse anymore.
No, it's no excuse. If you're on YouTube, you know this.
Yeah.
If you go to your library, well, sometimes in your library, you can still go through and find the information. I mean, Google's out there. You can research everything that we're about to say.
Yep.
And before we get into it, I would also recommend that you have a pen and paper ready to take down any notes or any key words that you want to look into after this live video.
Yeah, and Marshawn, I was raised, Catholic, Anglican. So
Hmm.
yeah, so definitely understand what it's like. Because when you are younger, you get given a name.
Hmm.
You get put into a religion.
Hmm.
You really don't have much choices. That's where you're
Yeah.
born. So they're gonna tell you where you're gonna go to school, how you're gonna
Yep.
eat, when you're gonna eat. So you just been given all this information. You don't know where it came from.
Nope. And we're actually going to touch into that while you're so forced into a lot of religion. And it's funny because when you raised as a kid, just like Leisha was saying, like your parents tell you, "Oh, you're a Christian, or
Right.
you're a Muslim, or you're for the people,"
Presbyterian, whatever, Baptist.
and going to the whole other spectrum, they tell the kids, "Oh, you're an atheist,"
Right. Oh
you know.
yeah. Yeah. Whatever your parents are when you're born, that's what
Hmm.
you're gonna be given. Whatever they have.
Yes, which is taken away from identity. But we're not going to jump into
Right.
that aspect right now.
That's another video.
Okay. Now, before we jump into this, if this information is not something that resonates with you, uh, we normally don't ask this, but click off.
Yeah. You don't have to. You don't have to
You don't
watch
have to
it.
keep
Like,
watching.
yeah. If you don't feel like this is something for you, then hey, by all means,
Hmm.
it's okay. I mean, we still love you. Still love and light.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we're all one, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, and for those of you who decide to have, religion and stuff like that, that's okay.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
We all here for a different purpose, so we're not against people who
Yeah,
choose to practice whatever religion that they have. Salute it.
yeah.
Hey, but This is
Yeah.
just giving pointers as to where these things started from and why they were started and the agenda behind religion.
Yep. So we're going to jump right into it. And just like Leisha said, if you're practicing a particular religion or a particular faith and it's bringing you joy and it's bringing you happiness, by all means continue to do so.
Yeah.
But if the, the religious practice is not serving you, then it's time to reevaluate some
Yeah,
things.
it's a little wake up call,
Hmm.
when you go to sleep, and you set your alarm clock for 6 o'clock and that buzzer keeps going off, it's telling you it's time to wake up. So maybe, everybody's alarm goes off at a different time depending on what they have to do during the day.
Hmm.
So, yeah, catch my drift. Yeah.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's dive into this. Boy, we about to get it in
We
today.
about to go in far.
Okay. So we're gonna break this down in a couple of different sections. Okay. So we're first going to go through and define the meaning of religion.
Yes, that's important.
Yes, and then we're going to go into where religion started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we're going to go into um, the Council of Nicaea,
Yep.
which, if y'all saw the thumbnail, there's actually a picture of the Council of Nicaea, and there are a lot of different stories or variations of the influence of the Council of Nicaea. And we're going to give you some information that we've been going through and researching, which we encourage you to research.
Do your own research, guys.
Come to your own truth, because the truth cannot be told, it can only be realized.
Yep. And do you want me to start off with this
Yeah.
little article?
Oh, yeah. Now we are so proud of a lot of Leisha's kids for what they do. They're phenomenal kids. But her oldest one did this awesome essay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna let Leisha take it over.
And guess what? Guess what his name is? They won't even guess his name.
They probably will. If y'all can guess Leisha's son name, just tell us real quick.
Tell me what y'all think his name is, and I'm gonna tell y'all if it's right. And this essay just goes along with it. Like, I'm so proud of this little boy. Um, when I read this, and he sent it to me. He doesn't usually send me any of his schoolwork. He's actually in college now. He's only 17, and he's in college. He's very young, but he's very smart. What did you say?
Oh no, they didn't guess the name.
Oh, okay. Well, his name is Knowledge. So she said
Knowledge.
King. Yeah, King. King
Close.
Knowledge. Yeah. His
Yeah.
name is Knowledge, and he does a good job at living up to his name.
Yes.
So he wrote this article and try to read it to you. Maybe I shouldn't read all of it. Let's see how long it is. It's not that long. So, but this is very it's very interesting, and he's asking questions, which is what everyone should do. I mean, he's only
Yes.
17, and he's asking questions. Like, things are not adding up to him. And mind you, he did this essay, and he did not use the internet for anything. This is what came off of him, what
Yes.
he has been noticing for his short time here on planet Earth. So, the essay, the title is "Does God Exist?" Right. So this is him talking to his professor, philosophy.
Yeah.
So he said, many have come to believe nowadays that there is no such thing as God, which is a being that is omnipotent, omnipresent, who has rules that we have to obey as humans. Compared to our ancestors, religion isn't that big of a part of our lives anymore, due to the researching of scientists and many philosophers. Multiple theories of a God to exist have been said to have been proven inaccurate. For example, many believe many believers are compelled to say that he exists because everything we see today has to come from somewhere. Most argue that their God is omnipotent and omnipresent, and that he created us in a view of his own image. Now, listen to this. If so, why are we, as beings of earth, as flawed as we are?
Mm.
Humans are very complicated and flawful beings. If there were a God, and he indeed created us in his image, does that not make him flawed as well? There can not be an omnipresent, omnipotent, and all knowing God who created an existence that was flawed if it was in projection of himself. There are many complications and contradictions in the Bible, which makes it a void source for evidence, as it was passed down from generation and edited hundreds of times by the race man itself. There is a very low chance that this scripture is still credible after all of the modifications made on it. The fact that the God of the Bible talks about is very forgiving and offers free will, but if you disobey the laws of the Bible or sin, you will be sent to hell for eternity.
Mm.
Now that alone is just something to make you really think right there. He goes on to say, he said that does not seem like something a forgiving God would do. If there was a God and he did give free will, then there shouldn't be punishment for being gay, questioning your belief, or
Mm.
eating certain foods. If there was a God who took care of his creations and was so generous, why are the social hierarchies and world hunger? No, why are there social hierarchies and world hunger? There are natural disasters that wipe out millions of innocent, spiritually devoted people every year.
Mm-hmm.
If these people are obeying the laws he created and worshiping as he says to do in the Bible, why do these people suffer when there are those out there who carry malicious intentives and are still able to live their lives comfortably?
Mm.
Pretty interesting, huh? There are many different cultures that support and worship different gods. If all of these religions are based off of faith, how are we as humans supposed to know which God to worship? If one or even all of these gods actually do exist, and they care about their image so much that they'll punish those who don't worship him or obey the laws. Why has there been no um, revelation of gods to reassure their believers that they are on the right path? To base what what did he say here? To base repercussions to the human race off of faith
Mm-hmm.
as flawed and as curious as we are is not something a highly intelligent and everlasting being would do. There are points that we understandable, hold on. There are points that are understandable when it comes to the existence of a God. Some of those may include the fact that everything in existence had to come from somewhere. It's highly unlikely that all of the surrounding universe, galaxies, and beings evolved from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There are indeed higher beings, but not the higher beings that have been social standard for the past couple of decades and centuries.
Mm. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Now that came from a 17-year-old who is just connected uh, to source, and
Hmm.
it's
All the way around. And he's not an, like, as he said at the end, he's not like, he doesn't believe that there's not like a higher being, but he just does not agree with the way things are structured.
yeah, and there's a reason for that, and we're going to go ahead and dive right into this.
Hmm.
Now, this may not be a long video, but we're definitely going to provide you with some information, some facts that you can go through and research for yourself.
Yes.
So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. So, when you look at the word religion, and please forgive me because we got notes here. We don't
Yeah,
want
we
to
had to
mess
structure it.
up
Yeah.
anything for y'all. We wanted to give it to you in a real way. So, when you look at the word religion, uh, by the simple definition of it, it's the belief in and worship of a superhuman control power,
Yep.
superhuman controlling power, especially in a personal god or gods. And it also referenced a particular system of faith and worship. Okay? So that's the word religion. But in order to understand where this came from, you have to go back to the source. Okay? And think about this when you played that game in school where you had to go through, there were like a line of 12 people, right?
Right.
One person says a phrase and they have to repeat that phrase until it gets down to the 12th person. Now, in most cases, when it came down to the 12th person, they never really said what the first
It
person
was
said.
nothing compared to what the first person said.
No, no, not at all. So, when we look at the word religion, we want to find out where did the word religion come from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the word religion is actually based in Latin when you look at the etymology.
Right.
Once again, etymology is a key to a lot of things. If you're not exactly sure how to spell it, it's Etymology.
Yes, and that would open up a lot of doors for you guys
Yes.
so you can understand what these words really mean. All words have a meaning and they have an origin. If you study the origin of the word, then you can really understand. That's the way out the matrix right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Understanding what words are you using, because these words have vibration, they have meaning, and they have purpose.
Yes. And that original meaning that came with that word still travels with it, no matter if you mess it up or if you say the wrong thing, which I'm probably about to butcher this word in Latin in just a second. But that vibration carries on, and whatever that original intent was for that word,
Exactly.
it never ends.
And it won't change because it's the intent behind it also.
So, the word religion is based in Latin. When you look at the etymology, you can Google this right now. Type in the etymology of religion.
Yeah.
And when you look at the first original word of it, and baby, if I butcher it, just
You want me to help you?
yeah, so she gonna say the word
Relegua.
relegua. And so in the original form, religion was actually said as relegra, and in that time, it was actually meant to bind. Now that word
Strong.
should strike a chord. I mean, just in anybody,
Yep.
and ask yourself, what are you binding? So, as time
Shackles.
as time went on, it evolved again into relegua, or am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Relegua.
Relegio.
Yeah,
Now it has
and
an I-O instead.
yes, and just to kind of retract, the first one that I said, relegua, is spelled Religare.
Yes.
And so through time, it transformed again into relegua, which is Religio. And at that time, it meant an obligation, a bond, or reverence. Okay? And then in today's time, the etymology means life under monastic vows.
Right, which is like Muslim and nuns and stuff like that.
Right.
So you pretty much follow their vows.
Okay. So just looking at the etymology of the word and where it originated from, you can see the intent behind it because it was originally meant to bind,
To control.
and that's where it came from. Once again, you can research this yourself. Type in Google etymology of religion, and you'll get the same thing that we got.
Exactly.
Okay, and once again, research it yourself. So when we look into all of this religion, and when we look at the origin of the word, then you also have to ask yourself, how did this all get started? Okay. Now, there are a bunch of different variations that are out there. Once again, research it yourself. You're going to hear me say this a lot. Research it yourself.
Do the research, guys.
Yeah. So, when you look back into religion and you look at all of the saviors that came into this world,
It's quite a few.
yeah, it's quite a few. They all came from astrology. It's all based in the stars.
All in the stars.
Okay. If y'all have ever heard that before, just drop a comment. Let us know. Uh, so we know that we got y'all, because we got a few people on here. We weren't expecting a lot of people to be on here with
Right.
this topic.
This is a lot.
But once this video is done, it's posted out there for anybody who is researching for it can find the information.
Right.
Okay. So when we're talking about that it's based in the stars, it's really all based off of astrology, and it's also connected to the zodiac calendar. And connected to the zodiac calendar, like, what do you mean about that? When you look at the zodiac calendar, for example, right behind us, right in the middle,
AKA, you see the sun?
you see the sun,
Right.
right?
SUN.
the sun. It's all centered around the sun. And when you look at that, you can also think who else is referenced as the Son? The Son of God, who is Jesus. Okay? And whether or not he was a being that was here or a myth, it's all the whole concept of Christianity is based off of religion and a lot of other religious belief, which we're going to get into as well. Okay? So when you look at that, it actually started back in ancient Egypt, and actually it precedes ancient Egypt. Yeah, there we go with the
Yep.
1111 there. I love it. Okay, so you can find the major origins of religion going back as far as into ancient Egypt. When we're talking about Horus, if y'all have ever heard of the Eye of Horus and things of that nature, he was the savior of their time. Okay? And when you look into the whole history of Horus, you're going to find some very particular similarities between him and Jesus Christ.
More than less.
A lot more than less. So I'm just gonna break it down. You want to break down some of the
Yeah, let me. Okay, so some of the similarities, and again, guys, you can do this research yourself. Some of the similarities that Horus and all the other, and I'll name them out. Krishna, what is this? Mithra,
Dionysus.
Dionysus, Attis. This is all they have in common, and listen
Yeah.
carefully, okay? Because this is what they all highlight.
Yeah.
So they were all, and it's more than this. We just listed a few of them. You
Yeah.
can research
Some of
it
the major
yourself.
ones.
These
Yeah.
are just the major ones. Born on December 25th, all of them, okay? Born of the Virgin Mary, all of them. Star to the east, all of them.
Adorned by three
Adorned by
kings.
three kings, all of them. Teacher at 12 years old, all of them. Baptized ministry at 30, all of them. They all had 12 disciples and they all performed miracles. They were all crucified and they were all resurrected.
Now these are all saviors that came before Jesus Christ, and they're all based off the same story.
Yeah.
You can look into these people yourself and actually see the correlation. And when we say that it's all based off of the stars, we're about to touch into that in just a second. And it is so perfect that we have this zodiac calendar right
It is
behind us.
actually awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Now, when you say something is special, right, and that's the only, it's really only supposed to have one that has all these things that we just listed. So when you start seeing a pattern, um, you might want to start thinking here, like, that's funny because when I was growing up, they said that only Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary, or only whoever was born of the Virgin Mary. You were brought up to believe that this is the only one that has these highlights,
Yeah.
and it turns out that this is not correct.
Yeah. And we're going to touch into that as well. Why most people haven't even heard of these people or even drew the correlation that all of these people went through the same thing that Jesus Christ went through. And this is not to bash
No, not at
Christianity or
all.
anything like that. So please don't get that twisted in
Right.
any shape, form, or
It's
fashion.
just getting people to kind of like ask questions. Yeah.
Okay. So in going off of that, once again, based off of astrology, when they're talking about these saviors that came, they uh, went into their grave for 3 days. They came back, rose with all power. Now, when I say that it's based off of the stars, I'm actually going to point that out for you. When you look into astrology, it's all based off of, it starts off with the star Sirius, which is Sirus. Okay? At a particular point in on December the
The
22nd,
22nd.
the star Sirius aligns with three other major stars. And when they come into alignment, let me see if I can actually show this.
And those are the
Just
three.
show you
Those are the three
because
kings.
these are actually our notes that we
Yeah.
go through. So when you look at this, the star Sirius aligns with these three stars,
Those are the three kings of Bethlehem.
which are the three kings. and they point to the east, which points to the lowest point where the sun uh, apparently like dies.
Right.
Because when you look into the winter solstice, at the winter solstice, that's when the sun gets to its lowest point. That's where we have our time fall back because we don't have as much daylight. Okay, and crops start to die and things of that nature. So you have to think back at this time in back in biblical times, back to the age of Babylon and things of that nature. At this time when the sun is not as bright, crops start to die. It gets cold. It's hard to find food, things of that nature.
Yep.
So these are really dire times for people in this age because, like, almost everything seems lost. But what happens?
3 days after.
Yeah. Well, not 3 days after, but I'm going to point out some other things to you. When you look at the constellation, excuse me, when you look at Mary, who is Jesus' mother, right? Mary is also in referred to as Virgo, which in Latin refers to the Virgin.
The Virgin.
Yes, and
Where is the Virgin? There she
I
go
can't.
right, isn't that her right
Yeah,
there?
that's you can't see. Let me pull it up real
That's
quick.
the Virgin.
We're talking about the Virgin
Yep.
Mary.
They're right next to the Libra. So,
Right.
yeah.
Now, if you look at the original zodiac sign of Virgo, you notice that it looks like a M, and that's not by chance. Okay, because when you look into all of these saviors that came about, all of their mothers started with the M. Their name started with the M, because I think Mithra was the mother of Horus, and I may be wrong. I have to go back, but if you look into their mothers, they all started with the M. But when you look at their mother, one of the translations of Virgo is like the house of bread. Once again, if you look at her,
Where is she carrying? Wheat.
she's carrying wheat,
Right.
which is the house of bread.
Yep.
And when you look at the word Bethlehem, it actually translates to the house of bread.
That's right.
The house of bread. Okay? And that's where the Savior is supposed to be born of, which is in Bethlehem.
Bethlehem.
Now, this is not an actual place where the Savior is being born. It's talking about the constellation of the stars.
Yep.
Okay? So when you when you look into that, we're gonna go into the whole resurrection part.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That right there.
Now, when you look at the resurrection, once again, I'm gonna reference my little drawing here. Once again, this may be old. Okay. So at this point, on December the 22nd, the sun gets to its lowest point, right? And it stays at its lowest point. Guess how many days it stays at its lowest point?
Y'all guess. Somebody guess. Y'all guess.
Y'all just tell me if
Guess some 22nd,
it apparently dies on the 22nd.
and then
It stays there for 3 days.
and then it's born on the
25th.
25th. There you go.
Okay. And so what happens is when they say that it dies on the cross,
Right.
right? They're talking about the Southern Cross. When you look at the constellation, it looks like this.
Yep.
Okay. So when the sun goes down to its lowest point here, it actually goes right into the center of here. That's where it dies on the cross.
Cross.
Okay. On the crust, which is the Southern Cross.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the 25th, it raises 1 degree and it continues to rise
Right.
all the way through. So this is where the whole resurrection story is coming from. When you look at Horus, when you look at Dionysus, when you look at Mithra. Oh, I said the mother was
The
Mithra,
mother,
but
yeah, that's
no.
the mother.
Yeah, that's the mother of, yeah. So when you look at all of these saviors that came through before Jesus, before all of these ascended beings, they all correlate with the same
The
story.
same story.
So it's not talking about not 7 days of Muslim. Not exactly sure what you look camera. Let me
Yeah,
see,
the
what does
camera's
that say?
doing some stuff.
Oh, the
Not
camera don't want
70.
us to
Oh,
show.
okay. I think he's talking about the 7-day Adventist.
Oh yeah, not the
Yeah.
7 Day Adventist. Gotcha. Yeah, the constellation between. Yep, there you go. So y'all already on it.
Yeah.
See, and see that's what we wanted. We wanted some people that understood this,
Right.
and hopefully the people who are just a little bit on the fence
On the
on this,
border and not quite sure.
right? Definitely, please, 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 please do your own research.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at something else. When they talk about the Savior, how he gets his crown of thorns, right? When you look at the sun
What do,
back on here,
what does that look like?
what do you see all around the sun? Whenever you look at the sun, it's always depicted with these rays coming off of it. And actually, I did it like, yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like Chris, yeah. So when you look at this sun, like it always has these lines coming out of it, which is reference to the rays. But when the sun rises with all power with his crown of thorns, we're talking about the halo.
Right.
And if you actually ever go back and look at some of the ancient pictures of Jesus, you'll notice that his head is always on a cross
Always.
with the halo around it. Okay, and and the funny thing is that that cross that his head is laying on is actually the zodiac cross, which was originally a pagan symbol.
Yep.
And of course, I drew a picture of that as well. If you look right here, that cross is actually the zodiac cross.
And
Because
that's
when you put the circle around it and you put all the houses and everything of that
right.
nature,
That's what it looks like. And pagan, a lot of people think that the term pagan is derogatory, and that is what the Romans wanted. Like it was actually just like the word conspiracy theory. They put it to be something derogatory so that people won't ask questions or they won't try to associate themselves with it. But pagan is actually anything that's outside of the Roman
Christianity.
Christianity religion. So if back in the day, if you were not conforming to their beliefs and their control system, then they would just label you as a pagan. But it's funny because they took a lot of stuff from the pagans.
They took everything from the pagan religions, and we're going to get into that in just a minute.
Yeah.
But one other thing I wanted to point out, you know, if if you have somebody that's in the hospital and they were in dire straits and they were almost like not going to live, but if they come back and they miraculously recover, you know, we usually celebrate right then and there.
Right.
But when you look into the religious part of it, it's actually not celebrated like on December the 26th when the sun starts to rise. It actually is celebrated on the spring equinox,
In
which is
April.
actually in Easter, April.
And that's where you get your little bunnies and stuff like that, which is again, it's paganistic. So research pagans and what it really means because you'll be really surprised the
Yeah.
the oxymorons and the irony between
Yeah.
what's paganistic and what's not.
Yeah, and that's one thing that really gets me is that so many times they tell you that we do things a certain way, but you have to question why are we still doing things this way? And I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, but
But
all those holidays that you celebrate, research the holidays and research the
yes,
origins, and you will be baffled as to why am I celebrating this again?
yeah,
But if you're not ready for it, don't do it because
yeah,
then you probably will be left out of a lot of dinners with your family and stuff because
yeah,
a lot of people are still they like sleepwalking and they
yeah,
just celebrating because everybody's doing it,
yep.
not really knowing what you're putting your energy into and why you're doing it.
Right, right. Yeah, because when you look into this next holiday, if you're in the United States, we got a
Thanks.
holiday
Oh
coming
my
up
God.
on the 31st, which is Halloween.
Oh yeah, y'all need to research that.
Definitely research it.
Research that.
But
Research that.
okay,
Guarantee you won't celebrate it again.
yeah, yeah. You
But
get
after
you're
you
right about that,
realize
Rosaline.
what you're doing, what you're celebrating, and who's harnessing your energy to do what.
Yeah. So now, before we get into the whole how Christianity became the most popular religion to practice,
Yeah.
there's one other thing that I wanted to cover, which is in the Bibles. There's well, for one, there's so many versions out there, which
So many.
that's definitely a reason to question it.
Question. The truth does not have versions.
No,
It's not like alternate facts. That's what they call it.
yeah, alternate facts. There are no alternate facts when it comes to the truth. The truth
No,
is the truth.
that's nonsense.
So there's no reason to revise the truth when it actually is the truth.
Right.
But one of the things that's talked about a lot in biblical stories is the end of times. Like the world's gonna come to the end,
Speak on it.
things of that nature. And if you actually look into the whole history of the book of Revelations in the Holy Bible, you actually found out that that was actually a dream that someone had, and they actually decided to add that into the book, and we'll get into that in just a second as to the reason why it was added into the book. But when we talk about the end of times, it's actually a misunderstanding. It's not actually talking about the world ending.
Right.
The world is not going to end anytime soon, at least not in our lifetime.
Not in the next one and the next one.
Yeah. But when they're actually talking about the end of times, they're actually talking about the end of cycles,
Ages.
different ages. And we're going to get into that. Oh, sorry, man. We to hit you.
I'm showing them the ages back here.
Okay. So, for example, if y'all remember the story of Moses when he got all upset when he came down from the mountain with the Ten Commandments, he saw all these people worshiping this golden calf and
Yep.
everything.
Got
And
mad.
yeah, and threw the tablet down and said, "Y'all just forget y'all. I ain't doing this no more."
Right.
And
Heathens.
that's in my version.
Yeah.
Okay.
These heathens.
All right.
Yeah.
But if you look into the story, the people were worshiping a golden calf, which was a bull. Now, can you tell me which zodiac sign is the bull?
What's this?
No, this one right here.
Oh,
We're
there we
talking
go.
about the age of Taurus.
There you go. That's the bull. That's the
So,
ram.
yeah.
Okay, that's
So,
okay.
when we're talking about when Moses came through, Moses marked the end of the age of Taurus.
Right. So
So,
so you got to cross that out. Now we're moving on to the next one.
and moved on to the age of the ram,
Right.
which you'll notice in a lot of yeah, idols, yeah, there you go. But in a lot of Muslim traditions, they still blow the
The
ram's
ram's
horn.
horn. Yep.
Okay, now we move on from the age of the ram over into the age of Pisces.
Boom. See that?
Okay, and when you talk about the age of Pisces, we're talking about the age of Jesus,
Yep.
which Jesus was born on December the 25th, which was supposed to be the mark of the beginning of the age of Pisces.
Right. A new
Okay,
age.
and in the age of Pisces, there's reference of the age of Pisces all throughout the Bible. When Jesus fed, what was it?
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000 people with the load of bread and two fish.
Two fit.
Two fish.
See.
Okay.
Uno dos.
He went out and he taught the fishermen how to fish for fish.
Right.
It's referenced all throughout the Bible talking about the age, because what happens because of the way that the
The
earth,
translation too.
yeah, because of the way that the earth rotates on its axis, is like a wobble. It doesn't rotate just on a
Just like
level
yeah.
plane. It rotates,
Yeah.
and it rotates backwards. So when you go through,
What is
when the
it?
sun goes through
25.
its cycle, yeah, when it goes through its cycle, it's like 2,105 years for
Yeah.
each cycle. So it's talking about, when they talk about the end of times, they're talking about the ending of cycles. So they're going from Pisces into the excuse me. Oh, going backwards. So we went from Taurus
Right.
to the Ram,
To the
Aries,
fish.
into Pisces, which is where we are now in Aquarius.
Right.
Now, if you don't believe that we're in the age of Aquarius, one of the things that was actually pointed out by Jesus, if you look into the Bible, you pull up Luke 22:10. I feel like I'm about to
You about to go
start
on
church.
and preach.
Go ahead and turn to Luke 22:10.
You so silly.
Okay. So I'm gonna read out what it says, and y'all tell me when you look at the
Right.
Aquarius, you tell me what you
Tell
see.
us if it correlates. Let us
Okay.
know.
So in Luke 22:10,
Go on,
it
read
is
it, brother.
stated, "Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall be a man meet you bearing a pitcher of water."
What is he holding? A pitcher of water.
And get this part, follow him into the
The
house he
house.
enter in.
Which means the house of Aquarius. These are all
Because
houses.
these are all houses. When you look at your natal chart, you're looking at houses. And how many houses are there?
In the natal chart.
I'm telling you. And then the other correlation, when you look into another connection to the zodiac sign, when you look into all of the saviors and they all had 12 disciples,
12 disciples.
when you look at 12 disciples, okay, you're looking at, I'm pointing one more time to this zodiac calendar here, okay? You got the sun that's centered around how many zodiac
Disciples.
signs? Okay.
Y'all see the disciples?
Yeah, when Da Vinci made that Last Supper picture, he wasn't just trying to show y'all what was going on in the day of Jesus. He was showing y'all that it's all connected to each one of these.
Yep.
Okay? And if you look at the picture closely, you'll see some resemblance of that because the Mary Magdalene is referred to, where am I looking at? Into Virgo. I mean, it's all split up down to four. Because when you look into this and you actually look into the picture, you'll notice that going back to the zodiac sign
Oh,
here,
yeah. Well, you
it's
can
all
put it
split
up.
up into fours in four different seasons, like
Yep.
your summer, spring, fall, and winter.
Yep.
Okay? And when you look at each one of the disciples, you'll notice that they're actually grouped in threes.
Yep.
They're all grouped in threes. And I wish I had a picture of this to show y'all right now, but
That would have been
definitely
helpful.
look at the picture of the Last Supper. You'll notice that each group of men are actually separated into three different groups, and they're all around the
The
Son, who is
sun.
Jesus, who is supposed to be the Savior to bring us all the hope and joy and all that other
Right.
stuff.
And life.
So, whew,
Yep.
we
We still ain't even got nowhere yet.
okay. So, not you really have to ask yourself if all of this stuff was happening before Jesus, and all these things are going on, why is Christianity the major religion?
Why? Go back to the meaning of the word religion.
Yes,
And then
it
you're gonna
means to
connect.
bind.
Yeah, we're gonna connect it with this last one right here.
Yeah. And if y'all got any questions or anything you want to say after we finish this, go ahead and get them ready to put them in.
Everybody quiet tonight.
I mean, if y'all are following us so far, just drop a comment, say yes, let us know so that
Yes.
we're not losing anybody if we need
Right.
to
We
go
hope we
back.
didn't lose anybody.
Because and just a side note, once again, the reason why we started to take a deeper approach to this
Right.
once again, because even though we are twin flames, okay, twin flames through and through, finishing each other's sentences,
Right.
love, all of that. But there's more to the whole journey of twin flames that's about ascending spiritually. Okay?
Hi, Danielle.
And when you're focusing on your ascension, you have to really get down to the truth of
The
things.
truth. Ascension is about truth. Truth. I mean, this whole thing is a fairy tale. All of this stuff that the Matrix built was designed this way by the Dark Cabal. It was designed because they feed off of your energy.
Yes.
They harness your energy. Some of them can't produce it on their own, so they depend on humans so that they can do whatever they have to do. So this is why it's so important to keep you controlled, to keep you laying dormant, to
Yes.
keep you docile. And the Bible is one of their biggest tools. Like these little books that they write,
Laptop and phone.
yeah, Laptop, phone, yeah, keep you distracted
Yeah.
so that they could just pull the wool over your eye and do whatever they want to do and nobody would even question it.
No.
And they have this thing set up so good because they've been doing this for eons,
Yes. From the
centuries
beginning of
upon
time.
centuries, and they know
Yes.
what they're doing. They're good at this stuff. So you got to get good at this stuff too.
Now, now here's the thing, and that's an awesome segue into what you just said, because in order for there to be control, there has to be a uniform practice for everybody to do so. It's easier to control because if you
Hmm.
got other little things going on off to the side, it's
Right.
hard to control.
Yep.
Because prior to Jesus coming around, once again, you had all these saviors that came around, Horus, Dionysius, all of these people, and they
Hmm.
were all teaching different things.
Right.
And when you have so many things scattered away, you can't really control that. And when
Hmm.
you look into the art of war, if you haven't read the art of war,
Go on and read it. And the 48 laws of power. Read that too.
yes,
But don't read it to use it on people.
no,
Just
no,
read
no,
it so
no.
that it won't get used on you. Just
Oh, yes,
put it that
yes,
way.
yes. So when you look into the art of war, the best way to actually control a group or to take over a group is to isolate them.
Yes, isolation. That's in the 48
So
laws of power too.
yes, and when you look into isolation, you're getting people focused into one area
Right.
where it's easier to battle them and control them.
Yes.
So going into that, back around 311 AD, you had all these different sects of religion, one
Mm-hmm.
of them being Gnostic Christians.
Yep.
And the Gnostic Christians were the ones who were actually teaching the practices of Jesus, which is love everybody, help your neighbor out, really good stuff, actually going back to the seven Hermetic principles.
Yep.
Okay, if y'all haven't researched the seven Hermetic
Please
principles,
do. Please, guys. Please.
so the Gnostic Christians were teaching their beliefs, and there were all these other things, and that were going on, and they couldn't control it. So between 311 AD all the way up to 380 AD, there was a lot of crucifixions of Christians, Gnostic Christians, people they considered to be witches
Warlocks.
that understood that the real law that should be practiced
It's
not
universal law.
is natural law.
Yes, natural law, not man-made laws that they just decide to make up. You guys got to think outside the box. Like
Hmm.
these people came here and they invented these laws, and because of their power and the control system that they set up, they were able to just give laws like, you know what, I'm gonna make this up. You know
Hmm.
what, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do this. Well, who the hell are you? Who made you big and in charge?
Yeah.
Who died and left you HNIC? That's what you call it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Who,
HNIC.
that's pretty much what it is. They've
Yeah.
given laws, and a lot of these laws, and what I realize with laws, man-made laws, they are legal, but it's not always right.
Mm.
400 years ago, slavery was legal, but it wasn't right.
Nope.
50, 60 years ago in the United States, people of color had to sit at the back of the bus. That was a law, but it wasn't
Hmm.
right. And with a lot of other man-made laws, these people, these dark cabals that they push on people, it's legal, but what's legal is not always what's right. Look at this man, what's his name, down in Alabama. Hold on, I'm gonna laugh. It's not funny. Yo, this dude took $750,000 from the prison. Instead of feeding these people in the prison, he gave them minimal, like I'm talking about bread, one egg, and
Bread,
water,
beans.
beans, and took out of that budget for food for feeding the prisoners. He took $750,000 out of that budget and bought himself a beach house. Now, you would think that he
Hmm.
would get in trouble, but he did not get in trouble because
Nope.
what he did was not illegal.
Hmm.
But
And
it wasn't right though.
yeah, and that's something that's practiced in a lot of restaurants as well, is that they give the sous chef or the guy who's over the whole kitchen, they give him a budget of what to use to make the food and do
Right?
all that stuff. Now, if he actually gets below that budget, then whatever he didn't use, he gets to pocket. Now, in the restaurant world, yeah, that's pretty
Well, that's a
cool.
restaurant. But come
But
on now,
in
you
the
gonna
prison
feed people
system,
one slice of bread, one egg, and water so you can buy a $750,000 house?
beach house.
Beach house. Like you have another house. You don't even need this house.
No.
And this is the reality of the world that we live in. And
Yeah.
it will continue to be like this until people start waking up
Hmm.
and they start seeing the illusion. Like
Yes.
this shit is not real. This
It's
shit is
not.
it's made up
It's
and
not.
it's controlled. They have their little tentacles that they use to control these people, but they just so comfortable, you know.
Yeah.
They asleep and they you know they set their alarms and maybe it might go off and they might just snooze and go back.
Hmm.
And the way that their stuff work is by not fighting back or
Yeah.
not questioning stuff. So if they give, and this is why religion is so important to them,
Yeah.
because they're giving you stuff, they're feeding you all of these things, and nobody is asking questions. Nobody's saying, "Well, I'm not accepting this." So
Right.
then, technically, you're accepting it, and
Right.
ain't nobody gonna try to come and help you and save you. You got to save
No.
yourself.
All right. So we're gonna get back onto the Council of Nicaea.
We
we
went off
got
track.
we
My
got a little
bad. You know
sidetracked.
I
I'm
be
sorry.
getting my bad.
So the Council of Nicaea back in 311 AD all the way up to 380, you had mass crucifixions. A lot of people killed in the name of religion.
Burn at the stake, like thousands of people were
Yeah.
killed.
And so what happened was you had all these different sects fighting, teaching whatever they were teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And and instead of doing it cordially, they killed everybody. They stamped them out. They burned their churches. They
Oh,
burned all of their documents
yeah.
and things of that nature so that there would be no trace of what they actually did. But little did they know, energy is never destroyed. It's only transferred.
Transferred.
And it
Mm-hmm.
transferred through our DNA.
Yeah.
And now through the age of
Age
Aquarius,
of
age
information
of information is all coming
in the
back.
butt to bite them.
So, um, so I say that to say,
Yep.
what happened was is that all of these different religious sects were pretty much stamped out, and
Mm-hmm.
to the point where Christianity was the only form of religion that you could, in some cases,
Right.
practice safely and not
Mm-hmm.
be harmed
Right.
for it.
Because they said this is it. You have to use it. You don't have a choice.
Hmm.
Either you do this or you die. Those were your choices back in the day.
Yeah. And so what really happened in the Council of Nicaea is that there were still different versions of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've pretty much stamped out all the little small guys and they down to Christianity, but there was so many different versions of Christianity that they said we need to get together and have a uniformed way of presenting Christianity.
Right. A fool in the people, aka.
Right. Once again, there were too many versions out there that they couldn't control. They had to
Mm-hmm.
narrow it down to
Even
one
smaller.
to make it easier to control.
Yep.
So, during the Council of Nicaea, there were a bunch of people that were invited to come out and help with the revision or the creation of the whole Christian reality,
Newfound religion.
but only about 300 people came. And
Yep.
out of those 300 people, there were three different groups, and two of those pretty much had the same viewpoints,
Mm-hmm. Or
but
vows, whatever you want to call
yeah,
them.
but they had differences on the terminology that should be used,
Mm-hmm.
and it was pretty much talking about the Holy Trinity, whether the Holy Trinity is all one or
Right.
if God is separate
Separate and
of
outside.
right. So they got together and actually try to put everything together in a nice little package that way.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 300 people, only three people actually signed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and
Mm.
out of that, there's still some other parties that didn't really like the way that things went down. They got vexed. They went up north and started doing their own thing, and it all started over again
Mm-hmm.
until it came to another like meeting that they had, which they came to a conclusion of what Christianity should be. And since that time, from AD all the way up until now, the versions of the Bible have been revised, rewritten,
Hundreds,
stuff has
hundreds,
been added in.
hundreds and hundreds of times. And they actually took 14 chapters out of the Bible.
Yes.
14 chapters out of the Bible because they don't want people to know the truth.
And you know what's so funny if y'all like Eddie Griffin and y'all seen his comedy, he said something that was so key. You got all these people writing a book about Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
talking about, oh yeah, I rode with Jesus. I know what he was doing. He was doing this. He was out there feeding the hungry, healing the sick, walking on water. But why Jesus didn't write a book?
Mm.
The one person who did all of these things
Mm.
could give a personal account, firsthand experience of what he actually
He ain't
did
write no
not write a
book.
book.
Not one sentence. Wait, I gotta do major hype. Say it again, baby, so I can do major hype.
I mean, okay, out of all of these people who wrote about Jesus, talking about they rode with him and everything, but Jesus didn't write a book.
Wait.
I mean, these are just questions. I mean, because if I want to tell my
Yeah.
story, I'm gonna write a biography.
Right. Write my own book.
You
And
know,
all this time when he was walking around, he didn't take time to write a sentence? Like, not a paragraph?
Mm-mm.
I mean, you could work miracles. You an alchemist in these streets, for real, for real.
But when you think about it, the reason why he didn't write a book is that because he wanted people to not worship him.
He said that too.
He said that so many times. Once y'all read through the Bible, we've read through the Bible, we've read the Quran, we've
Mm-hmm.
read all the different religious texts that you can think of,
Right.
you know. And his whole thing is that he didn't want people to worship him. He wanted people to do what he did. And when you look at church nowadays, people are not doing what Jesus did.
But they Christians. And there wasn't even no Christians back in the day, this so-called day when Jesus was around. Wasn't no Christian.
No.
There wasn't no Christians. And then the Jews killed him. His own people killed him. Like, come on now. This is
Okay. I
it's a
mean, it's
lot here. This is a lot. It's a lot of questions to ask. There's a lot of research to be done, and the information is out there. It's not hidden from anyone anymore.
yes. And one other thing for the people who've been rocking with us for this long, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys. You know this is a lot of information.
One thing, if you haven't looked into it already, look into the guide program
Ooh, yes.
and you will see how the whole Council of Nicaea works into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people say that the Council of Nicaea is the ones that created Christianity, which is not it. In some cases it can be true, but in some cases it's not. Because when you think about it, if you get rid of all the religions and the only thing that's left is Christianity, but you got little small versions of
Mm-hmm.
Christianity, then you have to come to a clear, uniform look for Christianity in order
Right.
for it to work.
Right.
Because if you got all these other versions, somebody was like, well, John down the street said that it was such and such, or the cat
Mm-hmm.
down the road said, oh no, it happened
Right.
this way. Then people start to think,
Too much confusion. And it's harder to control people when they're actually thinking for themselves.
right, right. So we've provided a lot of information, a
Yes.
lot of homework for you all.
And remember, research the seven Hermetic principles. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand this universe, think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibration, or however he put it,
Yes, you
however
got it.
order he put it.
Yeah.
Metaphysics, study metaphysics, because that's the real knowledge. That's where your real information is. It's in the natural laws. Natural laws never change.
No,
It doesn't change. Anything that change on a consistent basis is really
it's
something
not
that
real.
yeah. So study things that don't change, things that stay the same,
Hmm.
and the 48 laws of power, like read books like that that's going to actually feed your mind
Yes,
and help you grow and develop.
yes,
Don't just do what somebody else tell you to do. Don't even listen to us. Go do your own research
right.
and come to your own realization and find your truth
Yep.
and what you resonate with.
Yeah. Like The Alchemist is a good book to
Oh
read.
my God, that's a great
Uh,
book.
yes, those are some good things to
Yeah.
dive into. So, before we head out, because we're close to a one
Boy,
hour
we
mark,
said
and
we was gonna do a half an
yeah,
hour.
we said we were gonna do it for 30 minutes, but we got to get this information to
Yeah.
y'all, and most of y'all already know this, and definitely continue to dive deep. And for
Mm-hmm.
those who, and oh, let me backtrack. for those of you all who do have the knowledge, one of the best advice that was actually given to me by this lovely young lady here is that don't go out there try to shove it down people's throat.
No, no, we don't do
Be,
that here.
yeah, be the
Just
lighthouse.
be the lighthouse, live your life, vibrate high, live good, love, and then people will come to you and they'll ask you questions, and then you'll have the
Yes,
opportunity. So
yes,
don't shove it down people's throat and stuff like that. They'll run
no,
away, and that's not to talk about Christians and stuff. I mean, I love everybody,
yeah,
but sometimes when you have certain people that like to judge people and put them down because of what they do, and oh, you're not wearing the right thing, and you're not going to heaven, and that's not like inviting.
no,
So you want to find, just live a good life.
yes,
Live what you are, pretty much. And then people will come and they'll ask you questions, and then that's your perfect chance.
yeah, yeah. You're right about that. So, and just like I said, to be a lighthouse, the only reason that we made this video is that because we had so many people
Right.
that were asking us to cover this. And
Hmm.
so because we had people asking us to cover it, we
That's
made this
that's what we
video.
did, and this is what we resonate with. You might not resonate with the same thing, and guess what? It's okay.
It's okay.
It is okay. We're all here on a different purpose. We all have different life plans. So maybe in your life plan, maybe that's something you came here to experience. So we're not
Hmm.
going to judge you.
No.
But it's always good to know what you're doing, what you're getting into. It's always good to know the origins of things
Yes.
before you kind of commit, like, heart and soul into something.
Yeah. And it's like even with twin flames, going back to twin flames, before
Yeah.
you jump into a relationship,
Yeah.
you need to know about that person before you make a commitment to it.
Yeah. Just knowledge is power, just knowing.
Hmm.
Imagination is creation.
Oh boy. So we're about to head out. I don't know if anybody has any questions before we head out. If this information has been helpful for you, if you look in the description down below, there is a link for you to give a donation. You can give a donation of any amount. Any
Yes.
amount is definitely helpful.
Yep.
Okay. And one of the last thing I like to promote as well
Oh,
is that we are less than 500 hours
and
away
it's thanks to you
from
guys.
our channel being actually monetized, which is
Hmm.
awesome. I remember when
Yes.
we first started, it was like
We
we
had
only got
one
like
one view.
yeah, one view, 300 hours. Like how we gonna get to 4,000 hours?
And you guys helped us, and you made it possible,
Yes.
including this moldavite I got in my hands right here. See that
Oh
mold?
yeah.
See this? This is called moldavite. This is one of the most powerful crystals in the world. It's actually a meteorite. Came here billions of years ago,
Hmm.
before a lot of religions was formed. This meteorite was here. This is old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
somebody had asked about, they probably already left, but she wanted to know if the book was by Robert Greene. Yes, it is, by Robert Greene.
Oh yes, about okay. So we
Yeah.
had some people looking
All
at the
right,
Last Supper.
Marshawn, let's
Okay, there
see
you
you.
go. There you go. Okay. Well, it's late, y'all. It's
Yes.
Saturday, and it's no coincidence that we did this before Sunday, before everybody going to church.
Show them my moldavite. Go on, baby. You can
Let me
talk.
so.
Let me show them my
Yeah.
moldavite.
Oh, let's see.
Look at that. That's moldavite, guys. That crystal right there is
It's not
amazing.
so much in focus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Moldavite. Okay, I just wanted to show them moldavite.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're about to head out. We hope y'all have had a beautiful day. Uh, yes. Thank you, Danielle.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
Danielle. You're
Yes.
welcome.
And so we hope y'all enjoy your evening.
Yes.
We love y'all.
Love y'all.
We are Twin Flames Unite.
Y'all.
Peace out, y'all.